What's up, everyone? So I was guided to read out of this book. If you don't have it, you should get it. It's really great. I go through phases where I read it every day, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just read it when I'm told to read it, right? So anyway, today is December 4th. It's my grandma's birthday, so I want to honor and celebrate her. She's one of my guardian angels now. So anyway, today it's called letting go. How much do we need to let go of? A friend asked one day. I'm not certain, I replied, but maybe everything. Letting go is a spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical process, a sometimes mysterious metaphysical process of releasing to God and the universe that which we are clinging to so tightly. We let go of our grasp on people, outcomes, ideas, feelings, wants, needs, desires, everything. We let go of trying to control our progress and recovery. Yes, it's important to acknowledge and accept what we want and what we want to happen, but it's equally important to follow through by letting go. Letting go is the action part of faith. It is a behavior that gives God and the universe permission to send us what we're meant to have. Letting go means we acknowledge that hanging on so tightly isn't helping to solve the problem, change the person, or get the outcome we desire. It isn't helping us. In fact, we learn that hanging on often blocks us from getting what we want and need. Who are we to say that things aren't happening exactly as they need to happen? There is magic in letting go. Sometimes we get what we want soon after we let go. Sometimes it takes longer. Sometimes the specific outcome we desire doesn't happen. Something better does. Letting go sets us free and connects us to our source. Letting go creates the optimum environment for the best possible outcomes and solutions. Today, I will relax. I will let go of that which is upsetting me the most. I will trust that by letting go, I have started the wheels in motion for things to work out in the best possible way. Mm. That is not an easy thing to do, letting go, especially when it has to do with matters of the heart. That has been the hardest thing, at least in my experience, for me, like when something is really close to my heart, meaning my kids, maybe a relationship, right? Like with a lover, like I'm talking about. And those have been, there was every last drop. Like I've had to sip every last drop of chaos and dysfunction before I'm like, okay, fine. I cannot do this. I cannot take this anymore. And it's taken years, right? Years. Like I've shared on here with you guys before, like especially in relationships, like I have been, continue to give and give and give and think that if I show up this way, or if I show up that way, or if I do this, maybe they'll do that. And the bottom line, especially when it comes to dealing with people with addictions, right? Drinking or drugging or even like gambling, anything outside of me, right? Which is any person, place, or thing I have no control over. Okay. But that took a long time for me to grasp it. And I'm telling you, so hopefully you can embrace that like immediately, you know. But just like me with my addiction, this time that I stayed sober, I've been sober now for 23 years. This is my lucky 13th time at trying to be sober. And every other time before, I did it because somebody else wanted me to be sober, right? Or because I was put into some sort of institution. And so I stayed sober. And but the second I got out, I used again, because it was never my intention to stay sober forever, because I didn't want it for myself, right? I was doing it for a temporary fix so that I could please whoever else I was connected to. So um, I don't know, maybe somebody's having an issue with somebody who has a drinking problem or a drug problem. And these can be like really freaking tough, right? Situations, because they are the matters of the heart, right? And you feel like you can reach them and you don't want to let go because you love them, right? And you know that they can be better. But I also know that for me, I had to hit rock bottom all on my own. And, you know, I think I went to rehab, or I think it's a total of 9 times, right? 9 times. And that included like some outside, what do they call them? Like day treatment programs. I did those. And then a couple of times I would go into um, meetings, just because I remembered that that's where people who don't want to drink and do drugs, like they go to meetings, right? So I would try and go. But um, the difference this time was that I wanted to do it myself. And that's really helped me in regards to helping others get sober, because I don't take it personal. A lot of times I've noticed in programs or in institutions, because I've worked in them before, is a lot happens because I've watched people in authority, or they think that they can control it, or they think that it's like um, something that they can do. Okay. And I'm grateful that I became aware of the fact that, like, I literally have no control over anybody else. Right. And for me, what I always remember is that I didn't listen or do it for anybody until I myself hit my bottom. Like, I was put into a position of being where I was homeless, right? And then, I did have my mom like completely cut me off, but my dad was more than willing to send me money, whatever, right? Okay, and I had to tell him not not to, like, I was like, listen, if I'm going to do this, I got to do this on my own. I got to figure it out, and I was just like, I'll call you when I can talk to you without manipulating you, right? Because when I hit my bottom, I became so aware of my um, manipulations, my tactics. Like, I just thought I was this nice girl that drank too much and did, snorted too much cocaine and ate a few extra pills. You know what I'm saying? So I just got a rude awakening. But it wasn't until I myself saw that in myself and I wanted to be different that I actually worked for my sobriety. Every other time it was like, yeah, like I'd want to get sober, but it was never initially about me, staying sober. It wasn't ever my intention. I was always doing it to make somebody else happy. I remember even like in my 20s, I was dating someone who, you know, was pretty prominent in the community, and he really liked me, and he was like, "I'll take you to rehab right now," and he told me that he loved me, and like he's like, let's, I see myself having a family with you, all this stuff. And I was just like, I started laughing at him, and I broke up with him. I never saw that guy again because I wasn't ready, right? And it's like, I think that there's probably an awareness that has to happen on both sides too, for that person who's like constantly trying to recognize that they are powerless, right? And that's like such a it's just so it's like such a vulnerable place to be, to like at to admit powerlessness, whatever side you're on, right? Especially if you're like strong just have always felt yourself independent. It's like to admit that you don't have all the answers, right? That you can't control whatever's happening is like a really big um, ego buster. And, it takes what it takes, every last drop, especially in regards to um, relationships for me anyway, relationships, especially like the romantic relationships. And, even as like somebody who has, taken other women through the steps and like through like, through the program, I've always been aware of the fact that I can't force it. Like I share my experience, strength, and hope. What somebody does with it is on them. How they interpret it is on them, right? I can't force anybody to do anything. And I remember one time, a few years back, there was somebody that you know I love still to this day, right? But a line was crossed, right? Like I prided myself on keeping a safe distance from the people that I worked with because I know that I have no control over what they're going to do, right? And I had worked with this girl, several times, and she had gotten a few years, and then she'd relapse and be gone for a couple years, and then she'd come back, and then she'd relapse, and then and that's normally the case, with people struggling with any kind of addiction, right? So, but there was one time where like I really like crossed the line because but I crossed the line because I love her. Like I literally love her. Like it even makes me cry now because you know I've had to separate myself from people who I love, but it's like I understand as well, like they're on a path that I can't be a part of anymore, because I don't know. It's just anyway, that I had crossed a line and I was searching for somebody, and I was just like, what am I doing? Right? When I'm chasing somebody else's recovery more than they are, like that is a fucking problem. My fucking problem, right? And so, I had to really take a look at that. And there are people that I've had to let go of, like, and loving them to death. Like that's literally what it is. It's like because when you stop somebody from hitting their bottom, it's like that's what you're doing. It's like you're feeding into their problem. It's like you are the problem. And it took a lot for me to embrace that. And it's heartbreaking and gut wrenching because people will think that you're a sellout, you're a traitor, you don't love them, whatever. And it has nothing to do with that. Okay. I love you enough to walk away. Like you got to figure this out. You are disrupting everything in my life. Like I'm not even focused on my priorities. When you become more of a priority in my life than the things that are priority in my life, like that's a motherfucking problem I got to deal with, right? Okay, so now I got to like step away, right? And it's not easy to do, especially in regards to matters of your heart. But the only place that I can put people is in God's hands, and that's it. Period, point blank. That's what I heard. Period, point blank. That's it. God's hands. And I I wish them well, and I wish them nothing but healing and love and grace. But I also know that it took me what it took me to be willing to accept responsibility for where I put myself in my life, and to start doing things a different way, right? And um, some people, it's like I remember also in early sobriety, somebody told me, just sit back, Lisa, watch everybody. They can make all the mistakes for you. And I watched and I saw what people did. Like, I saw people get jobs where they were making a lot of money immediately. They went back to their same field and started making lots of money, and then they have their nice car, and then the next thing you know, they're getting high, there's no more car, there's boom pow. I watch people get in relationships early, and then they get everything really quick. They have a nice job, they're getting paid lots of money, and early recovery, you don't need all that fucking money, dude. Money is the big liar of the fact that, like, a lot of people think that because they have a lot of money that they're cool, they're good, they're straight, but money is a liar, man. I mean, yeah, you need it to live in life and pay your bills and get food and all that kind of stuff, but just because you have money in the bank does not mean that you are mentally stable. And that shit takes work and practice and effort and a willingness to look within, right? And to face those darker sides of you. And there are people that I've had to walk away from, this just let go. I have to let go of them, not because I don't want them in my life, but because, they're staying in a pattern of, or a cycle that, like, hey, I learned that lesson. And I've tried many times to share with you how I overcame that, and you continue to do what you're doing. Like, okay, I got to do what's best for me now, because that's how it works. I got to put you in God's hands. I remember it takes what it takes. You do what you do until you know better, and when you know better, you do better, right? And that's the bottom line. And sometimes you have to let people crash and burn on their own, and it's not an easy thing to let go, especially in matters of the heart. And that's why, a lot of times I will start to, when I'm really resistant on things, I'll start to ask God just for the willingness to be willing to let go. And sometimes the shit's got to start there. And so if you're there, if you're stubborn as a mule like me, think, pray for the willingness to be willing to let go of whatever person, place, or thing is disrupting your life. All right, guys, I love you.